Okay, so are 4D visualizations valuable beyond the interview? Should we take 4D seriously? So in our presentation today, we're hoping to change your mind or reaffirm your views on it, and you'll answer with an emphatic yes. I'm Jacob Skrobarczyk. I'm the VDC manager for Austin Commercial Central Texas Division. I'm a civil engineering graduate from the University of Texas, and I've been with Austin Commercial for 8 years. I credit the timing of the start of this movement, the BIM Forum, with really jump-starting my career. I've learned a lot from these events. I actually attended John's BIM 101 course in Dallas in 2009. And the BIM Forum has always had an impact on me, and I'm hoping to return the favor today.
Okay. My name is Wang. I graduated from the University of Austin, University of Texas at Austin, and I met Jacob 2 years ago at the Austin BIM group when I gave a presentation on my research on design coordination and how to manage knowledge in design coordination using data mining.
So for those that aren't familiar with Austin Commercial, we are one of the largest CM firms in the nation, in particular Texas. Our parent company, Austin Industries, which includes commercial, bridge and road, and industrial, put in place about $2 billion worth of work in 2015. We built the only F1 racing facility in America, the Circuit of the Americas. We built the largest replacement hospital in the U.S., and we're currently building the largest commercial build-to-suit project in North Texas for Toyota. We're the third largest aviation builder in the U.S., and we're using 4D to visualize the schedule, and it's really transformed our ability to communicate. We're going to show today how 4D visual planning tools and practices impact pre-construction in several rapid prototypes or several rapid fire case studies and demos, from communicating microschedules to our bidding subcontractors to collaborating with designers on just-in-time design. We are finding new ways to use 4D for everything. Planning org charts and managing resources, reviewing air rights and license agreements, and collecting data to help to build better schedules by tracking progress visually and analyzing productivity. Finally, we will argue that the power and future of 4D is not simply linking the schedule to the model and watching it. It's taking that visual reference point and then analyzing project data, other project data over time in relation to that reference point. So we'll go through several case studies. One of the unique parts of these case studies is that they're all within a 30-mile radius of Austin. As we progress through the case studies, you'll see how we built up our 4D portfolio by adding one building block at a time. Before we get to Austin, we'll show you a project in Dallas that really provided inspiration for our future work on 4D. That's the new Parkland Hospital in Dallas. And in this example, it includes a few critical building blocks for successful 4D, a virtual mock-up, and heavy field participation. So 160 feet in the air, from levels 10 to 12, we have walls that span 120 feet and then end in this dramatic 60-foot cantilever. We define this as an area ripe for virtual mock-up, and it's a really high-risk condition. We have 1 million pounds of rebar, and the cantilevered PT walls at Parkland are something that we wanted to focus on. So we actually hired a consultant, and they modeled the PT and rebar. But what's unique about this situation is that this rendering, the false work, all the scaffolding, was actually created by our field engineer, and unbeknownst to our VDC department. So it was an example where we had a guy on a project site that started to see what the power of, hey, just 3D coordination is, and then took it one step further and decided, hey, I'm going to create this visual, create these animations, and then run through how we can build this in the field to improve productivity and to really make sure that he got it right from a field engineering perspective. I was really surprised because I struggle to make renderings look this beautiful, and this is a field engineer that kind of busted this out of nowhere. So using that as inspiration, I started working on a project, the Circuit of the Americas, just southeast of the airport. And for those that are unfamiliar with the project, Circuit of the Americas is a 1,500-acre sports and entertainment venue just southeast of the Austin airport. It's the most Instagram location in Texas. It's home of the X Games, Formula One, MotoGP, and a massive outdoor amphitheater. The facility has capacity for 120,000 people, and it's the only purpose-built F1 track in the United States. This Sunday at 3 p.m. There's a race, the 2015 Formula One U.S. Grand Prix on NBC. And so once the project got the green light, we were really schedule constrained. It was in October 2011. We had 13 months to get race day ready. So on this project, it was pretty easy to define what the high-risk repeating condition was. It was the 3.4-mile circuit track. We modeled every level of the track to discuss and define scope responsibility with our subcontractors, look at sequencing and durations. And one of the things that we did that was, sort of taking it one more step was we tied the color-coded layers of the virtual mock-up to the schedule so that all team members could see, the complex track design and understand if we were on schedule or behind schedule. One of the things that we did is we were hit by heavy rains in January right before the track, and so we were able to visualize within the animation when we were hit by rains, as you can see in blue, and then us recovering from those rains, and then resequence construction so that we knew we could finish by race day. We were able to show ownership. We would make it for that first race. And using these tools, we were able to create an environment, a job site environment, where everybody was in an incredibly relaxed situation for having so much at stake. So while our virtual construction team was finalizing the coordination and planning the recovery schedule on the track, a major component was added to the project. We were challenged to build an outdoor amphitheater, concessions, and a 251-foot observation tower. And we had to do it all, not only design, but construction in 8 months. So we worked with Walter P. Moore, and Walter P. Moore took the Mira Rivera design concept, which is basic geometry, and created a fabrication level model. We used the model to greatly improve communication and completely eliminate redundant detailing. We were able to save 6 weeks by cutting out the paper shop drawing process. And with an over-the-shoulder review by our fabricator erector, the team took the design from basic geometry to fabricated steel on site in just 12 weeks. So the inclusion of that fabricator and erector in the design process was critical. Patriot erectors provided feedback on what members were readily available and what connections they preferred for rapid assembly. And ultimately, when we finished the project, we completed both design and construction in only 8 months, and plus we had 0 change orders. So throughout the process, I was involved in the meetings really to see how electrical and lighting and all the additional sort of smaller MEP components were used. But with our design team going all the way to a fabrication level, it really allowed me to start experimenting with using 4D on the tower in that amphitheater area. One of the things that we saw is once we started showing the animation to the designers, Walter P. Moore indicated that they were actually a little bit behind on the veil design, and they needed to speed that up. We were working on the 7th module for the tower. This tower is erected in 10 pieces. If we would have erected that 7th module, the tower was actually could have fallen down because of it. And so they were able to accelerate the veil design schedule after reviewing the animation. And it really helped make sure that this was a success. I mean, a lot was at risk for this to be completed in time for the first race. So with the steel on site, we assembled the modules of the steel lattice diagrid tower and erected it in 10 pieces. In early November, we completed construction of the distinctive red racing stripe veil, and it was available for the first race. So using visual planning tools, we were able to recover from extreme flood events to complete the facility on schedule for the 2012 race. The FIA, the governing body that oversees international motorsport, approved the circuit in late September 2012 for Grade 1 status, and it's the highest distinction awarded to a motorsports venue. So the team from the Circuit of the Americas went down the street to the Austin Bergstrom International Airport to work on a massive rental car center. And we really wanted to apply all the same tools. It was an incredibly different type of project, but we wanted to keep the momentum that we had built through that project. And so one of the things that we did is we created a tower crane sequencing animation. The complex part about these projects is that you end up building them in zones. You create a tower crane sequence with 2 tower cranes making 3 jumps each time. And so we went through it, we looked at it with our superintendent and with the parking management at the airport. And one of the critical things is that we were actually, to dismantle the crane to the sort of bottom of the screen now, we would actually need to shut down a roadway that was tying right into their toll booths. So the superintendent resequenced the work and then was able to come up with a sequence that actually made sense. And we were actually able to time it so that, if you're erecting and dismantling cranes 6 times, that erection and dismantle number is going to go way up. So what we were able to do is time it so that we were dismantling and erecting a crane at the same time that we were dismantling and erecting a crane. So we ended up saving $20,000 to $40,000 just by, hey, let's adjust the sequence, let's get a little mobile crane out there for a couple days and use it for formwork installation while we get going. Similarly, we identified a virtual mock-up case here, really a repeating condition. So we have 5 levels, 1 million square feet. Those are broken into 6 zones, and there's really four pours per zone. So the idea is that this is the equivalent of like a 120-story building, except it's just repeating and going horizontal. So we modeled PT and rebar, identified sort of how we would build one small section, and that informed productivity on the rest of the project. So throughout the project, our superintendent was able to look at the schedule and compare really our webcam versus the animation, and really force our subcontractors to stay on schedule, let them know when they're ahead or behind schedule, and we were able to do a great job of keeping that on track. And then now, as that superintendent works, he's moved on to a similar project at Tampa Airport, and he's using this model, this 4D sequence, to inform the new VDC coordinator on that project on what he wants it to look like and how he's going to use it.
Okay. So building upon the success of previous applications, we moved one step further on our next project, the Sheraton Hotel in Georgetown, 30 miles north of Austin. On this project, the developer was particularly interested in reviewing the staffing strategies over time. So we incorporated the staffing information into the 4D simulation, and the visual creates the transparency for the developer to understand where and when we spent money on staff. On the other side, our regional manager was able to create a cost-efficient plan to adequately staff the project using this schedule visualization as a reference point. Future plan is to apply 4D resource management on all of our projects to facilitate better communication with the client, improve feedback from and to the field, and also increase the overall predictability and efficiency in resource allocation. And on our next project, we faced some new challenges in Austin downtown area. So the first challenge that we came across is to get the tower crane license agreement. This is a traditional 4D animation that we created for the project. And the city is concerned with the impact of tower cranes on pedestrian, on transportation, and surrounding buildings. And our project manager spent months back and forth with the city trying to get the license agreement before he came to us for help. So the previous animation is not good enough to show the tower crane movement, so we created this short and sweet and 4D animation showing the maximum swing of the tower crane and the typical movement of the jib. So our project manager got this to the city, and we have our license agreement in our hands within a week. And this is the tower crane being assembled in a lovely sunny day.
So one of the other areas that we like to use 4D is in really planning formwork installation. We do a lot of self-performed formwork. This is a crane use log and really a formwork layout plan. What we're looking at here is trying to understand how our projects in Houston are getting really 3,600 square feet a day for structural productivity. What we're getting quoted in the Austin market is closer to 2,200 square feet a day, and trying to understand why that is. So we started off by taking their formwork drawing and trying to make a clear visual of how they're doing it. And then we thought originally that we would just go to our formwork subcontractors and tell them, hey, you need to produce like this. Here's a visual, produce it. And what we were able to figure out is that it had a lot more to do with shortage of labor and demand for workers, shortage of skilled labor than it did really anything that we could produce for them. The other piece is that they had questions outstanding. They had issues with beam schedules and rebar details and how to figure out how to put the structure together. So with our self-perform team, we're actually taking, the time-lapse video and using it sort of like a game planning strategy. And so compared to our competition in the market, we're able to do about 2,900 square feet a day, which isn't fast by most standards, but within that marketplace, we're beating the competition by about 30%. And so our formwork project manager really believes in the use of the model. He's an active virtual builder, and we're building structural models and finding those issues early. And it's really a way that we can really improve our productivity.
So the midst of construction going on in Austin downtown is reshaping the city for the next decade, but also creating extreme challenges and construction for construction. And so we're spending a lot of time trying to understand the site condition, our surrounding buildings, and trying to coordinate with our adjacent projects for tower crane erections and sequencing.
And so in this animation, when we pursued the project, we put together this animation. We had multiple projects going on. We were looking at really tower crane placement in relation to the other projects. In a 2D perspective, it was really hard to tell when cranes would be there. We just got dumped with, here's logistics plans, here's schedules, go. So we were able to come up with a plan that worked. It seemed actually pretty easy once we got into it. And then once we were awarded the project, we set up a meeting with a developer that was working on a project just to the north of it. They said it may concern you. So once we got their schedule and their logistics plan, we realized that although we started our project earlier than they did, we'd be 4 levels below when they were starting theirs. And really they were using some productivity numbers that we would see more like in a Houston market or in a different market. So they're flying up with their structure and using 2 cranes, the lower crane, which would hit us if it was weather vaning. So we had to go back to the drawing board, spend a lot of work on these sort of cartoon sketches to understand where we would be over time, and then use that to really plan a jump sequence that would work with their adjacent property and have our superintendent go into it with open eyes on what the challenges are to the project.
Okay. To summarize, our understanding of 4D is not only using the 4D simulation to represent the schedules, but also use it as a platform and a reference point to incorporate data for different uses. And here is the typical workflow we developed for 4D. We broke it into 4 steps. validate the model content, improve the model, break down the model into the details that you need for your use cases, and link the schedule to a model. And this can be repeated as the model updates and the schedule updates. And here are some best practices. First, important to identify the use cases you want to test out. And it's always good to test out one application at a time, pulling up your letters. And once you have to identify your use cases, and it's critical to define the level of development of your model. And the next important lessons learned is to determine the update frequency of not only your model but also your schedule, because you know, the models and schedules always change. So that's one thing to keep in mind. And the last but the most important is to getting more involvement, not only inside of the VDC department, but also outside of the department, from the field guys, from the project managers, project engineers. And one of the examples of this attempt is trying to incorporate the safety data into 4D. And this is research that is being developed by Su Young and Dr. Lei Chi at the University of Texas at Austin. So they are trying to utilize and incorporate this safety risk data into the schedules and showing the risk levels of work zones in 4D. And here's the animation that they created for one of our projects. So different colors is showing different level of safety risk. And red is high risk, blue medium, and green low risk.
And so after we saw this animation, I think it was pretty eye-opening, you know, looking at this and looking at our regional manager's reaction to understanding how we were staffing the project over time and what that looked like and how he could explain it to others. And I think the main point is that the future of 4D is not, you know, just building a more beautiful visual, but if we can include more information in reference to that visual and then tailor that to multiple viewers' perspective, we can get the buy-in that would allow it to be used on every project and really drive value out of the process. Thank you.
Jacob, I have a question for you. On a couple of our projects way back when, we were trying to use 4D a lot, trying to keep it consistent and live through the entire construction sequence meant that the superintendent had to spend a lot of time with either the BIM manager or the field engineer who's managing the process, which didn't really work because they have so much more else going on that they didn't want to be a part of the process. How did that work for you?
So I'll let you know that it's not consistent on all our projects. It really depends on superintendent buy-in, how critical they think the process is. On the Circuit of the Americas and the CONRAC, that superintendent loves technology. That's, you know, he lives for construction and technology. So it's really easy to do. On other projects where we had less superintendent buy-in, we kept the model level of development and really schedule the activities that we're tying the schedule to a real high level and just try to get as much benefit as we could. That's the Sheraton Georgetown project. There's the one just outside of Austin. There was a hotel and we had resource management. Really, the developer asked for that information, but we were trying to get more buy-in, get more people to use it, because then that will sort of validate the amount of time we spend updating the model for the schedule. And so all I can say is that you kind of have to gauge it project by project. And if you can find those teams that want to use it, focus your time on those projects.
What about the types of schedules that you were maintaining? So let's say we get more buy-in across a company, right? Enterprise-wide. Everybody wants to do this as long as it's a BIM process. The duplication of the schedule, did you find that to be a tedious work?
Can you define duplication of the schedule?
Well, Primavera versus 4D schedule, because you wouldn't really be able to visualize the detail inside of a Primavera schedule come into a 4D model. You know, you don't have everything inside. Those tasks translate over to a 4D schedule. So the two schedules will be essentially different.
So I'm not sure if you work for a software company.
Construction, and now software.
Okay. Well, the tool that we're using takes in the Primavera schedule directly. And so whatever my scheduler who sits right behind me wants to put into the model, we can put it into the model and we can visualize it and look at different activities in relation to the animation. So,
Gotcha. Thanks.
all right.
So one thing I thought was, I don't know, I'm still thinking about the ramifications of it, but the ability to take a 4D schedule and then include activities that, based on some sort of rule either within the name or the use profile of that entity, be able to assess the risk register from a high incident factor. That's like super exciting, because you think about the work that's going to go on every single day. You can start, instead of just having like area superintendents and general superintendents, you can start to look at where the high risk work is going on, or you can start looking at like the dollar value of the work that's going in place combined with the risk, combined with maybe even other metrics like the quality or need for architectural finish in that given area, to make sure that you have like a 5-day look ahead that's day by day, right? Am I the only one who's getting excited by this? And having like a dashboard that could allow you to reassign staff based on that day's need for your project? Okay, maybe it's just me.
So
I think it's cool. Guys from Austin, what did you do that you were like, you know what? That was a really solid win. I mean, what was it? The resequencing of the tower cranes so that you were demobbing and mobilizing the tower cranes at the same time, so you weren't literally sending a mobile crane back and forth to the job site. What's the thing that like feels like a real solid win? You nailed that and you were like, I'm going home, I'm having a beer, we rock this.
I think the Block 188 project that we show at last, Austin proper, that we have really congested job site in downtown Austin area, and we were coordinating with our neighbors that is 20 feet away from us, like staring right at our building, and we're trying to coordinate the tower crane erection plan for that, and we spent like days trying to figure it out. First using the 2D cartoons that Jacob created, and then we incorporate their schedules. So they provided us separate models and schedules, and we incorporate their schedules into the model using the software, and then it's much easier for us to visualize what are the possibilities to revise and improve our plans, and to work safely and efficiently with the building next door.
What was the separation you guys had between those two cranes?
So we have 20 feet between the buildings.
So you had 20 feet between the buildings, and
yeah.
then you had,
and so
looked like you had one of their cranes had what, like a luffing?
Yep. So one of their cranes has a luffing jib, and so we originally planned to get either above or below both of their cranes. That was our strategy. Once we started to look at it, there was no way to do that. So either we were going to be underneath their lower crane and they hit us with our building, or we could be above their luffer and there's no crane supplier that can provide a crane that can freestand that high. So we went through it a bunch of different ways, and ultimately, talked to our safety department and our, equipment yard, and the question was, can we just ignore the luffing crane because it can get out of the way, and then use walkie-talkie, safety, planning and scheduling, and that's sort of the next step is, I got an email in the meeting from the project manager on the project 20 feet away. Hey man, can we get a schedule update? We want to see how, our delays with the city and your delays with the city impact this logistics plan. And I think that part really cool. And I think that if we could get really more participation, we have a project next door that's Beck's project, and if we could get their 4D simulation, if we could have DPR's 4D simulation right next to us, then we could all just be push button, boom, here, let me see yours versus mine, and plan that way as opposed to sort of redoing work back and forth.
That's pretty damn cool.
The project's extra.
I'm not being your hype man. I've been on projects with tower cranes. Yeah. And PXs generally say tower cranes are like boats. You know, the 2 best days on the job are the day it actually gets mobilized and the day it's gone. So.
And to add some drama to the project, so the project manager used to sit in the same office as me. A good friend of mine, and went to go work for the other, one of our competitors to work on that project. The superintendent on our project originally is now the superintendent on that project.
Oh, it sounds incestuous.
It's an awfully strange project, and then
I'm being recorded right now, and I said that.
Within our project, a superintendent that has sort of come up under that superintendent took his place. So there's some really good relationships between us. It's going to be a really big challenge to make it work, and I think we have sort of the right teams on both sides of the fence to make it happen.